Good morning, everybody, and thank you for taking the time to come out and listen to our presentation about our journey into missions. We are always very excited to come out to Minnesota and especially to this church, and we are so grateful to all of you for your support, your kindness, and your generosity towards us. And we're specifically thinking about not even a year ago when we were here during Harvest Fest and you guys blessed us with a very sacrificial and generous gift, which is a big part of the reason as to why we can stand here today. Almost done with my helicopter training, and we're looking at NODAT, so thank you very, very much. Over the course of the next hour or so, we have the privilege of sharing with you a little bit about our journey into missions. We'll have a time where we'll look back at the years of preparation, and then we'll give you a little bit of an outlook as to what is lying ahead for us. First, we want to give you a little bit of the why. Why are we doing what we're doing? Why are we investing a lot of time, a lot of resources to be able to go overseas? Mariah and I, we both had the privilege of growing up in homes that instilled in us the beauty of the gospel and just what Christ has done for us on the cross. And we are convinced that truth of grace and the resulting relationship with God is the most important thing in our lives. And we are convicted by the fact that there are still to this day many people around the world who have not yet had the opportunity to hear. And that combined with the fact that Jesus commands us in the gospel to go to all the world and make disciples and share his teaching. So we're excited to be part of seeing a church established among the least reached people groups. And it is our vision to support the church planters that go through Aviation and sustain them by providing reliable, safe, and efficient transportation as they take the time to present the gospel to those who have never had a chance to hear. And before I go any further, I think I maybe even owe you an explanation as to why there is no helicopter out in the backyard. Unfortunately, the clouds were too low this morning for me to fly in safely or even legally. I'm hopeful that the weather will clear up enough so that we can still do the rides this afternoon.
Yeah, so who are we? We are Patrick and Mariah Hofstetter, and we have two boys, Noah and Ezra. They're up front with my parents. So Noah is 2 years old and Ezra is 6 months. I grew up in St. Hilaire, not too far from here, and started attending this church when I was 5 years old with my family. And I have just very fond memories of going to Awana and being in Christmas programs and even meeting some of my closest friends. My draw to missions began when I was 10 years old, sitting in the sanctuary, in the gym, and Pastor Howard put a challenge out to the kids in the congregation to read missionary biographies. And Patrick, he grew up in Switzerland and also felt a draw to missions when he was also very young, listening to missionary stories.
Yeah, we are not on this adventure on our own. We actually have two organizations that we work with closely. On one side, we have Ethnos 360 and Ethnos 360 Aviation. Ethnos 360 exists to see a thriving church among all people groups, and they go to places that are very remote and hard to get to. And they make it their mission to be there, learn the language, learn the culture, and eventually be able to translate the Bible and teach through the gospel. And then just as the church grows, they get alongside them, and once there's an established church, they phase out. So operationally, we are operating very close with Ethnos 360, and then on the other side we have MAF, Mission Aviation Fellowship. You might have heard that name before. It's the biggest Christian aviation organization in the world, and they operate aircraft all around the globe with the goal to bring help, hope, and healing through transportation with their airplanes. And our connection with MAF Switzerland was very foundational or key in my first steps into missions, and the relationships that I built during this time, combined with the fact that there is not currently an Ethnos 360 office in Switzerland, is part of the reason why we still have very strong ties, mostly administratively, with Mission Aviation Fellowship.
So we're just going to share a little bit of our backstory of what brought us to this point. There have been many years of preparation. So back in 2013, I moved to Spokane, Washington to attend Moody Bible Institute. At that point, I was thinking I wanted to do full-time ministry, missions overseas, but I didn't exactly know what that would look like. Even though I didn't have the details, I knew that I wanted to have a strong foundation in understanding more of who God is and more about His Word. So I decided to go to Moody and graduated in 2017 with a Bachelor of Arts in Biblical Studies.
Yeah, my official first steps into missions began in 2017, more specifically in August of that year when I put my few belongings in a suitcase and moved from Switzerland to Spokane, Washington to also attend Moody Bible Institute, more specifically their aviation campus, with the goal of attaining a training in mission aviation. So my training began with a year of Bible, which was very formative in growing my understanding and appreciation of who God is and His Word. So it was a really sweet time in that regard. But it didn't come without challenges. I didn't think I would have any kind of culture shock, but I think I did. A little bit at least, especially when it comes to language. It took me a long time to write these papers, to find my ways through the words and specifically theological new terms and so forth. And also in conversation, it wasn't very rare that people looked at me with blank stares when I was trying to express my thoughts, which at times was a little bit discouraging. But I've gotten over it and enjoyed the time regardless, and these moments of blank stares have become fewer and fewer. But still to this day, I have to just say one sentence and people ask me, I hear an accent, where are you from? But it's all good. I've enjoyed the time and I've learned a lot during that first year. After that year of Bible training, I had the opportunity to start aircraft maintenance training, where I learned the basics of inspecting and repairing aircraft, and I also obtained the required licenses to do so legally. As you can maybe tell from the picture, there is a mask hanging from my ear, so that took place during COVID, which made things a little bit more interesting, having to do all the practical projects while still maintaining all the social distancing and so forth regulations.
And then, we didn't actually meet at school, so I graduated right before Patrick started. But Moody had put on an ultimate frisbee group, and we met playing ultimate frisbee. And then a few years later, we started dating. And then in June 2020, we got married at our church in Spokane.
Yeah, so right after we got married, I jumped back into training, wrapped up my time at Moody, learning to fly airplanes, which was a really sweet experience. Many of my instructors, they were very seasoned missionary pilots who've flown overseas, and they really focused on what it means to fly an airplane in a missions context, which means that often the runways are very short, they're unimproved, and they're in mountainous areas. So it was a stretching but a very good experience.
And then June of 2023, our first son was born, Noah. And 2 weeks later, we hit the road and drove 17 hours to here from Spokane. And that just began our crazy life of traveling as a family. Oh, yeah. And then in August of 2023, we moved to Missouri. And that's where we started at the Ethnos Training Center. At first, Patrick and I weren't super excited to have 9 months of more training, since we already had gotten quite a few years of training at Moody. But we wouldn't trade those 9 months at all. We see it as an invaluable time where we were trained to just understand more of what makes a mature church, things that help and hinder a people group from understanding the love of Jesus. We got to look at the importance of worldview and how that plays into how you share the gospel with people, and even just strategies in how to learn a language well. We just really loved our time there.
Yeah, so after we completed that step, we moved to southern Arizona to a small town called McNeil, and it really is a very small town. It's the headquarters of Ethnos 360. It's surrounded by brown, orange dirt, mesquite bushes, and we shared a space with tarantulas, scorpions, and snakes, and not very many people, but it's a great place for training. We can make all the noise and we are not really bothering anybody. So during the past year, we had the opportunity to get like the final training that we'll receive in the US. For Mariah, that looked like just having opportunities to learn about flight following, being able to explore a little bit what it means to raise a family in a different culture. And also she was able to get a glimpse into the opportunities that probably will present themselves to her as we head overseas. And on my part, I had the privilege of learning to fly helicopters and also maintain them. So I've been busy just with cruising around in the helicopter. And here you can see a little bit of a glimpse into what actually makes up the majority of missionary pilot work. It sounds like it's all about flying, but it's really being a servant and bringing tools to the people who are working in the remote areas. So on this particular day when this video was taken, we were just flying a few minutes, landing on a mountain landing zone, unloading a few hundred pounds of cargo, reloading a few hundred pounds of cargo, flying another 3 minutes, and then doing it over. So yeah, I definitely felt it in my muscles the next day, but it was a just eye-opening experience as to just what was going to be the real life experience as a pilot on the field. And just appreciated that opportunity.
And then earlier this year, Ezra was born. At first, Noah wasn't too excited to share the attention, but he's really grown into his role of big brother and is a huge help. And then for a few years now, I've been working on my master's in elementary education. And just a few months ago, I finished all of the testing that I need in the state of Arizona to become a licensed teacher. And so the last step is doing my student teaching, which will happen in Arizona from January to May of 2026.
Yeah, so there are a few more things that we're hoping to wrap up before we are looking forward to heading overseas sometimes next year. I'm hoping to get my US citizenship. This was strongly recommended to me by MAF and Ethnos 360, just because it will facilitate us coming to the US as we are looking at home assignments, or even long-term if in 20, 30 years or whenever we're hoping to come back. And so that would open up the doors so that there wouldn't be any complications with immigration services. I'm eligible to become a US citizen in April next year, so hopefully things go smoothly with that and we can check that box. Mariah mentioned how during that time she will be doing some student teaching. I'll be watching the boys, so you can pray for me that that time will go well. And then we are excited to head to the Philippines, probably in the fall of next year. And the Philippines is a country in Southeast Asia. It's consisting of over 7,600 islands. There are 180 plus languages spoken, and due to the geography of that place, where there's lots of oceans, jungles, and mountains, there are some very remote areas where the gospel still hasn't been presented to this day. So Ethnos 360, they have many missionaries that are in the church planting process within these contexts, and because of the remote nature of their work, Ethnos 360 Aviation operates 2 helicopters to just sustain these church planters. There's a base in the south on the island of Mindanao, and one in the north, the island of Luzon. So
there's a few steps that we need to take before we become fully involved in the Philippines. The first one is just to have the financial support needed to live and work in the Philippines. And the next part will be moving to Malaybalay, where we will get about a year of language and culture training. And then after that, we will know if we're placed in the south or in the north. And then you may be wondering, Patrick will be flying, what will you be doing? Some things are a little unknown at the moment, but what is known is that I'll be with the boys at home, and I'll be taking care of them and the home, and we will be homeschooling, so we'll be busy with that. And I will also get to flight follow. That is just every time Patrick flies, I will be watching him on an app, making sure that he's where he said he's going to be just to make sure that he's okay and the helicopter's okay. And I might also get the privilege of being a supply buyer. So I'll be able to buy the supplies that will go to the different missionaries in their remote contexts. And lastly, I will be a medical coordinator. So there's medical evacuations that happen from time to time, and I will be the point person to make sure that the ambulance is there to meet Patrick and the patient, or I might even be the ambulance to take the patient to the nearest hospital.
Yeah, so we've talked a lot about aviation. You might be wondering why aviation, or more specifically, why is there a need for helicopters in missions? And we'll take a look at a short video that explains really well why the helicopter is used. The video specifically talks about Papua New Guinea, but it also applies to the Philippines or any other field that Atmos 360 Aviation is operating in.
Here in Papua New Guinea, we have many, many places, and increasingly the places that we have yet to reach are the more remote places. But these more remote locations, they still have yet to hear, and really the only way to get in there is by using a helicopter, or just knowing that it might take you 3-5 days, depending on the location, to be able to get in and out. Forget supplies and anything heavy and so on if you don't have a way to carry it in and out.
There's medical needs, there's supplies that need to be brought in, and the only way in some of these instances for that to happen is through the use of our helicopter. Aviation is a tremendous tool. As we apply it to missions, it enables the folks to get in and out of extremely remote locations very quickly. For these folks not to just survive, not to just scrape by, but to thrive in the ministry, for them to be there, engaged with the people, to be supplied with what they need, to be connected with their families, to have consultants who've done this before come in and sit down with them and the folks that they're working with, and make sure that the work is going forward well, and if they have questions in their translation and their teaching, to be able to bring those resources in to keep them moving forward is just really important.
Yeah, when you think about the vision for our organization and the mission and what we're trying to accomplish here, I think the vision has not changed in the 50, 60 years that we've been here, and that we still want to reach the areas where people are least reached. I want to reach those places where other organizations have not gone. A lot of times early on, we start off with a helicopter allocation just because that is the quickest way to get boots on the ground. And so almost all of our new works start off as helicopter works. The helicopter is the most crucial piece of equipment we have to get to those unreached people groups. And the reason they're unreached is because there is no road, there is no river, there is no whatever into those locations. And that's why, quite often they're looking at a 3, 4, 5 day hike into that location. And so when we're looking at and thinking about moving a family into that location, having them hike 3 or 4 days or 2 or 3 days or even a long day into a location and bring the supplies necessary to raise their kids and to engage in ministry, it's just impossible without some kind of vehicle such as a helicopter to really get them up and running.
The impact we see the folks that we're supporting, the tribal church planters, have as God's word goes forward among these tribal villages that have invited them in. And it's not just evident to us, it's evident to others around them. Just a couple months ago, there was a delegation sent from a neighboring village to where we have an existing work. And this delegation came in and said, "When will we get a missionary?" They said, "We are dying and we need what you have."
And here's the deal. If we don't take the opportunity to get in there and to meet that felt need that this people group is expressing, there are lots of other false teachers, lots of other gold companies, lots of other different things that are going to seize that opportunity. And you go back to some of those places in 5 years and really the door is no longer open. It's no longer available to us. So to us, there's this constant sense of urgency that when the door seems to be opening, we want to have the tools necessary to go through that door and establish a work and get our boots on the ground, get our people learning language and culture so that that church can be established.
Yeah. Another term that we've been using quite loosely is the term missionary, which kind of raises the question, what then is a missionary? For many of us, the first thing that might come to mind is names like Hudson Taylor, Adoniram Judson, or Jim Elizabeth Elliot, and so forth. Some others of us, we might think of a person who leaves their home, packs everything up, their family, they move to a faraway land and live in a jungle somewhere to present the gospel to people who have never heard. And let's explore a little bit that second description that's sometimes referred to as tribal missionaries. And if I could involve you guys a little bit, if I could get a volunteer who would be willing to hold this sign of a tribal missionary up. You don't have to speak, don't have to do anything, just hold that sign up. Any takers? Thank you. All right, so let's look together at what this work will look like for our missionary. So the first thing that will be applying to you once you get to the field, let's take the Philippines as an example. You will get to learn the language. So first you'll learn a trade language. If you could hold that up as well, sorry. I said it was a card, it's actually a few cards. If you could just make sure that our audience can see the cards well. So you'll start learning the language in the Philippines. That would probably be Bisaya or Tagalog, depending on which region in the Philippines you're going to. Once you're done with that, which that process might take you a year and a half, depending on how quick things go, you'll be ready to allocate to a tribal village. So at that point, you will likely face another language, potentially a language that never a foreigner has spoken before. So there's going to be no help, and you will have to learn that language, get fluent in that language, which probably will take you a little bit longer, maybe 2 years, maybe 3 years, depending on how difficult that language is. Along learning that, if you can make sure that people can still read the cards, thank you. So as you learn the language, you'll pick up culture as well. You'll learn what is important to the people. All right, what does our missionary up here need? Any ideas? Help, exactly. So could I get maybe 3 more people who would be willing to form a team with our missionary? Thank you very much. So we can distribute the load. This doesn't mean that some of you don't have to learn the language or learn the culture. You'll all be still involved with that. So you'll learn the culture. This is really key because as you start getting ready to teach the Word of God, you will want to make sure that you understand how people think, what is important to them, what are the cultural cues, so that you can avoid like misunderstandings as you teach. Once you're ready with language and culture, you'll be ready to start translating the Bible. This is a very exciting step as these people, they never had the Word of God in their language, and you will be the ones who are going to be able to present to them the Word of God. This is going to take quite a long time. If you don't mind holding this. It's going to take quite a long time, maybe 10 years, maybe 15 years, depending on how quick you go. You'll begin in Genesis, start translating the key portions in the Old Testament, and then all the way through Revelation. As you start translating that, you'll be able to begin teaching. So you'll teach the gospel, and hopefully a young church will be born. So you'll be involved with teaching. And then as the church grows and there's going to be local leaders that are able to take it up, at some point you will be able to phase out, but the whole process might take a decade, it might take 15 years. And it's important at this point also to note that God is in control of this. We can't make a church, we can't make converts. He has to be the one who works in heart. So there are instances where the missionaries do the hard work and at the end there is no visible fruit. So just being mindful of the fact that we are just faithful to what we think God has called us to. All right, so next up, these people, they might not be able to read, or at least some of them might not be able to read, and in order for them to be able to make use of the translation that you're working on, you'll have to teach them to read. You might even have to develop an alphabet first, because there might not be an alphabet that is able to express the sounds that are important in the language. So not to overload our crew here, can we get another person to join their team? Maybe? All right, thank you. If you guys want to maybe take the stairs and take a step down so that it doesn't get too crowded, as we hopefully will be able to get some more help up on stage. Thank you. So people, they see you, they see that you have medicine, they see that you're pretty healthy, and they will just start asking you questions as to, can you treat this, can you treat that? So even though you might not have any formal medical training, you will become the doctor, you will take care of their medical needs. And similarly, there will be things that break in their village. They might have flashlights or little carts that they wheel things around in, and they might come to you and ask you to fix their things. All right, so now we're looking at a team, maybe 4 individuals, 4 families. They are in that tribe and they are working away, learning the language, and hopefully as a result of that work, we'll have a church that will be established within a few years. Now we're changing colors. So that was our tribal church planning team. Now we're looking at our support roles. There are a few things that make it so that these people can actually effectively do their work. So we're looking at a pilot, any takers, who would be trained to fly and maintain aircraft so that the missionaries can be flown in and out, and also their cargo can go in and out without any trouble. Thank you very much. Yeah, keep coming. I'll give you another role. Very good. So next up, we're looking at a supply buyer. All right, so our supply buyer is, just as Mariah explained earlier, is going to be the person who buys the supplies that the missionary requests so that they can do their work without having to come out of the village. Then we also have a guest house. Anybody interested in being a guest house manager? This person is going to run the house that is in the larger village and is kind of the entry point as missionaries come through. Thank you very much for being willing to be our guest house worker. I see there's already more personnel coming, that's great. So she will be our administrator. We have quite a big team already now, so she's going to make sure that things are going to run straight, that, just administratively our organization can run smoothly. And then we're looking at our last support person on the field. We're looking for an accountant, a person who is good with numbers, so that we can be faithful stewards of the finances that have been assigned to our operation here. Anybody willing to be an accountant? Somebody good with numbers? Thank you very much. All right, let me make some more space. So now we'll take another step back here. We'll leave the Philippines, we'll go to the US now, and we'll be looking at some stateside people who we need to run our operations smoothly. So the first one I have here is a representative, people who can talk well and can share what the mission is all about and just make sure that we can get the personnel that we need to fill the spots on the field. Anybody would like to be a representative? Thank you very much, I appreciate that. All right, so next up, we're looking at some training staff, preferably people who have been on the field before, who have done the work and know what it takes so that they can prepare the next generation. Anybody feel called to be training staff? We're running out of people here. No, I see some more takers. Thank you very much. Just keep coming up. I'll give you another role. I guess I have 2 more. That's great. All right, so then office workers, people who are filling our offices here in the US, not just for the sake of filling offices, but just to do the work in the background that needs to be done as our operation is growing, as you can see. Thank you for being our office workers. And then last up, and that involves all of you, we're looking at churches, people, individuals who are willing to pray, to carry or lift up the missionaries in prayer, people who are willing to give financially so that the work can be done, people who are encouragers, take the time to send a message and just encourage our big personnel on the field here. So now we have quite a team already, and let me ask you, the audience, a question. Who of them is the real missionary? So I don't hear any real answers. If you guys don't mind flipping around your cards so that the audience can see the backside of the card. So they're all missionaries. And there isn't one of them that is more important than the other one, since if somebody steps out of their role, things will get harder, things will be more complicated. And there are so many different options to be plugged in mission, whether it's going to be overseas, whether it's like tribal missionary, whether it's in support, or even within the US, there are so many roles that can be filled. And the question is not so much what kind of role are we fulfilling, the question is more, are we willing to fulfill the role faithfully that we feel like God has given us? Well, thank you very much for being so brave, our missionary team here. If you don't mind putting the cards on the floor or the ground, and you can go back to your seats, and please give it up for our missionary team.
So yeah, we are currently building our support team. There are a few ways that you can be involved in being our team. First is we need people that are committed to praying for us regularly. And secondly, we need people that will also give financially so that we can be in the Philippines, living and working. If you're interested to learn more, we'd love to talk to you one-on-one. We also have some resources out in the foyer on a table. You can grab our prayer card or the little trifold that we've made that will give you some more information. We also have a sign-up sheet on that table as well, where you can sign up for our newsletter. Just put down your names and your emails. And then lastly, we have a Tuesday night gathering at my parents' place. We will have a slide in the service that will give you some more information on that. But it will be at 6:30 Tuesday evening, and we will just have a Q&A time, pretty informal. We will also have a virtual reality experience. So we have some virtual reality goggles that you can try on and just see what it's like for a church planter to share the gospel with the people and the steps that they need to take to be able to get to that point, and just how aviation helps them in that.
Yeah, so for now, that's pretty much all that we have. We would like to open it up to any of you guys if you feel like we need to clarify some things, if you would like to hear some more, or just whatever is on your minds. If there's anything, please don't hesitate to ask.
So for your relationship of God, how did you start? Like, did you know Jesus as a young age, or did you know him like when you got older?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So I'm going to speak for me, and then I'll give Mariah the mic. I grew up in a Christian family, so like God and the Bible was instilled in me from a very young age. I didn't understand all of it. Well, I guess I don't quite understand all of it to this day, but it's just been a gradual growing process where I had the opportunity to learn from my parents, from youth leaders, from church leaders, and yeah, the relationship with God grew, and my desire to follow His call grew as well. And so I tried to be faithful every day, and it wasn't like just this gradual incline. It was like at times up and downs, but I just really cherish my relationship with God. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it did.
I also grew up in the church, and just got to know the Lord at a young age. But I would also say that it was a gradual up and down, harder times and easier times, and feeling intimacy with the Lord, and then times of feeling like, where is He? And then in college, I wrestled with a lot of doubt of why I believed what I was believing. Was it just my parents' faith that I have taken on and not really understood why? So I asked a lot of questions during that time, and I think that was instrumental in bringing me closer to the Lord and really understanding why I believe what I believe.
Where are you at financially, and what's your time frame before you leave to the Philippines?
Yeah, so generally speaking, there is usually two sides to that question. Often missionaries, when they allocate, they will open a fund for like outgoing expenses. We haven't quite done the process of figuring out how big that pool should be. And then there's usually like the monthly commitment of people who are willing to like carry us with that. And at that point, we're at about 70% of the monthly support that we will need to be fully funded as we are stepping into our work. Does that answer your question, or are you hoping for more specifics as far as numbers go?
About what time frame do you have to have it before you leave?
That's right, you said that, sorry. Yeah, so we're looking at leaving probably early fall sometime next year. It just all hinges on how fast the process goes for me to get my US citizenship. So we probably have about a year, maybe a little bit less of time where we just really will try to ramp that up, and yeah, just, I guess, one day at a time.
I guess I've always wondered, with all the people groups that need to be reached, who makes the decision what people group to reach next?
Yeah, so that's a very good question. Actually, it really depends a little bit on the context of the country you're in. For example, we saw a video about Papua New Guinea. Papua New Guinea right now is a very open country where like the tribal people in the different areas, they want the truth. They want a missionary. So it's like they reach out and they write a letter of invitation, so to speak. And then, yeah, it's right now the bottleneck is that there is not enough missionaries who are willing to go to those places. And so they just, as the requests come in, they kind of almost get onto a wait list. And then as the personnel gets available, they will be allocated to those places. And then in the Philippines, it's really cool there because in some of the remote areas, churches have been established. And the desire in those people that are part of that church now is to share the gospel with some of their relatives or people they know in some kind of context that are in a different location who haven't yet heard. So they take it on themselves to just kind of reach out to the next people group, and they're equipped through Ethnos as well, have the helicopters available. And so it's kind of almost regulated within the country, and just people who understand like Christ's command and they want to be part of that, so they go and reach the places around them.
So the Philippines that you're going to help and support, why did you choose that specific area?
So why the Philippines over the other areas?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, so there are 4 locations that Ethnos 360 Aviation serves in. It's the Philippines, Indonesia, Brazil, and Papua New Guinea. So we didn't necessarily get a choice. They asked us what we'd prefer, and we preferred the Philippines. But the Ethnos 360 Aviation, the personnel there, they get to choose where we go. Maybe Patrick can add more to that.
Yeah, it's really a conversation. It's very needs-based, so sometimes there are bigger holes in other countries, in one country than in another country, so it makes sense to send personnel there. And in our case, as Mariah said, it was a conversation between the leadership and us, and they asked us whether we'd have a preference, and we gave them a loose preference, told them we're open to go wherever they think we should go, and they asked whether we'd be willing to go to the Philippines. Yeah, that's a good question. So the question was, will I be the only pilot in the place of assignment? So right now in the Philippines, I mentioned the 2 bases that they have. In the northern base, there right now is one pilot mechanic who is kind of doing the thing as a one-man show. The south, they have 2 pilots at the moment and a guy who oversees the maintenance. He also helps out in the northern area with maintenance. So it's going to be a pretty small team, but will likely not be the only ones unless there will be overlap with like home assignments when other pilots or mechanics go home. So they're likely not by ourselves, but not a very big team.
So, are you guys nervous, excited about the language? I mean, well, Patrick, you've already learned a couple, well, I think 4 languages. So, how's that looking to you?
Yeah, I'm not too nervous about Patrick. He knows a lot of languages already. But I have only tried to learn German and a little bit of Spanish and did not become close to fluent in any of them. So I'm a little nervous about that. But I think it is possible. And there are some really cool strategies to learn the Filipino language that I didn't know about when I tried to learn the other languages.
And are you going to miss your parents?
Say that again?
And are you going to miss your parents?
Oh, so much. They did say that they might follow us on the field, though.
So Mariah, for your master's in education, did you go for that with anticipation of specifically using it? Or is it more just being prepared for what God might use it for?
Yeah, I think, so before that, I had my Bachelor of Arts in Biblical Studies, which is great, but it doesn't really equate to a job necessarily. So I wanted to get just another degree that could be used in the future. I didn't think that it would be used on the field necessarily, just with all of those responsibilities I had listed off, especially with homeschooling. But I definitely wanted to get that degree so that maybe like in the future, if we were to ever come home, then I'd have an opportunity to use it.
Thank you for talking and sharing. What are your thoughts on raising your kids overseas?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a mixed feeling with that. On one side, we're kind of sad that they might not experience the things that we cherished as children ourselves. But at the same time, with the combination that we have of an American woman and a Swiss man, that wouldn't quite be possible even if we stayed in one of the 2 countries. Yeah, and then if you read stories about missionary kids, you can read very positive ones, you can read some that are not so positive or even very negative. So there definitely is a little bit of nervousness with that, and we just pray that God gives us the wisdom to raise our children well and to love them well, and just making sure that we don't put them behind ministry, but just making our family one of our first ministries.
Ethnos 360 also has a missionary kid group. I don't know the exact term for it, but they have a ministry specifically focused on the kids. And I think they have different retreats that we're hoping our boys can be a part of and just connect with other kids that may be their age or just have gone through similar experiences being a missionary kid. So we also have that resource as well. And we also are hoping to read more books on, having, is it third culture kid. So we have a lot to learn, but we are also excited for this opportunity that they'll get.
On the subject of books, do you have a favorite missionary book or two that you've enjoyed reading throughout the years that you might recommend to us or maybe the high schoolers that are interested potentially?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think my personal favorite at the moment is To the Golden Shores. It's the story about Adoniram Judson. And that's just a great story of a man who devoted his whole life to see the kingdom advanced and just went through some very challenging things, but kept his eyes on the Lord. So that would probably be my recommendation, To the Golden Shores.
One of my favorites is The Hiding Place by Corrie ten Boom. She and her family hid Jews during World War II, and that's just a wonderful story of her faith through that while she was in a concentration camp, and how God used her mightily for him.
First of all, I love the use of the word "ja." You fit right in here with Norwegian. Are there established church congregations, church families there, or will you be part of a church plant?
Yeah, so we'll be likely in a little bit of a bigger city where the aircraft will be operated out of, and there is some English-speaking churches even. We haven't decided yet whether we want to be part of an English-speaking church. So maybe as a background, the Philippines in the more urban areas, they are very pro-America, just with the history that the US had in freeing them from the Japanese occupation in the Second World War, and therefore English is pretty widespread among the people if it's like in a little bit a bigger village where we will be located at. So we will not per se be part of like a small growing church plant, at least not on a regular basis, but we'll either go to a local language-speaking church or potentially English-speaking church that is made up of Filipinos.
I am just wondering, how does it work as far as a furlough? Do you come all the way home every so many years, or how often will you get back to the States?
I think the other fields, I think it's every 4 years that they come home. We will be coming home every 2 years. So we'll split that time between here and Switzerland is, I think, the plan at the moment.
Yeah, so basically it's you get 1 year off, if you want to call it that, where you go back to your home country, you maintain the relationship with the people who are part of your team, the churches and so forth. And there are some fields who do 4 years on and then maybe 9 months or a year off in the home country. In the Philippines, the team, they've changed it to being 2 years on and then 4 to 6 months off, where they travel home to the US. And as Mariah said, we will have to juggle a little bit as to how do we split up that time with all the different locations that we have connections to.
Maybe you guys answered it earlier, but do you have an idea of what your day-to-day basis will be for flying? Will it be a daily thing, every day, every so often?
Yeah, it kind of comes in phases, specifically with the flying. So I think on average in the Philippines, the pilots, they fly 300 to 400 hours a year. So that makes about an hour a day, but often it comes in blocks. If there's like new missionaries that are allocated, they have to bring out all their like building material and so forth. So you can put all that stuff on the hook, which is under the helicopter, and you can sling load it in. So you kind of shuttle back and forth. You might be flying 8 hours in a day and then not at all for the rest of the week. So it really depends on what the needs are out there. A lot of it is just like bringing people in and out, and then on a regular basis, it's bringing supplies in. And then, yeah, as I mentioned previously, new allocations, they take quite a bit of flying. And then there is sometimes medical emergencies where missionaries or tribal people have an accident and their only chance to survive is to get airlifted out. So those just come up as they come up. And then on a little bit less frequent basis, there is like disaster relief. The Philippines has a lot of typhoons that come through and sometimes cause a lot of devastation. And then Ethnos in the past, they have rallied their machines, so even brought in like other helicopters and aircraft from surrounding countries that they serve in and just did relief effort flying. And yeah, that has been really neat in the past, how that sometimes softened hearts of people groups that previously didn't want anything to do with outsiders. Yeah, so that was a little bit of a long-winded answer. It really depends on what is going on, but about 300 to 400 hours a year as far as flying goes per pilot.
Cool. Just one more question. All right, for you.
All right, guys. You said you're at 70%, kind of pigtailing what Janelle said. Do you have to be at 100% to be sent, or you just have to live a little lighter?
Yeah, technically, we can go overseas at a 75% support level. The people who've gone before us, I don't necessarily recommend doing that, because if you go at 75%, and generally speaking, it's normal for support to drop a little bit as you are gone for a couple years or so. And then if you drop below the 75%, the requirement is that you come back to your home country or whatever and bring it back up to the 75% until you're allowed to stay on the field. So our hope is to be closer to 100%. And yeah, it's just really been amazing to us how God has provided through people like you in the past to carry us through financially. It's really been a huge blessing and a great reminder of that there is nothing too big for God. Yeah, I think that's it. Thank you again so much for taking the time to come out to listen to our presentation, and also for your support and your love towards us. We really, truly do appreciate it very much.